Hey guys, so super excited to give you kind of behind the scenes. A lot of times in working with counselors and, even being a counselor myself, I felt like there was a big disconnect, right? Where maybe there were times where I was working with a counselor and I felt like, wow, they seem like they've got it all figured out. And that maybe would make me feel a little bit more uncomfortable. And sometimes I think that, there's kind of this, I don't know, maybe a persona or some kind of misconception that we as counselors have everything figured out and that life is perfect. Well, I'm here to tell you that I definitely don't have things perfect. I struggle with the same thoughts, feelings, and emotions that each and every one of you do because we're all human beings. And so in my experience, we all share the same different thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And the other thing that I'm super excited to speak with you about today is to give you kind of the behind the scenes of maybe a little bit about what it's like to live with somebody that cries, to live with a guy that lives from his heart and cries, because I certainly do cry. And so I'm very humbled and excited to have my wife here with me. And I was hoping that she could share with you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes of maybe what it was like when she saw me cry and how that impacted her. And for the women out there that are watching this or that are reading Big Boys Do Cry, hopefully this helps to maybe give you a little bit of a connection or an understanding of, oh, okay, well, that's what it's like for Johanna, that's what it's like for her, and maybe there's some things in the story that you can relate with. So I'm going to ask my wife to share, babe, what was a few times where maybe you felt or saw me cry and how that made you feel?
Well, I have to say that the first time I saw you cry, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should say anything. I realized that not only you were the first man that I ever saw cry, but to see you cry, this big guy with the big muscles, and to just go and start bawling your eyes in front of me, it really made me feel safe. And I know you probably were crying because you felt safe. So I think in that moment, it created a huge bond between us. And it gave me also the opportunity to know that it is safe for me to cry when I need that, when I feel all those emotions with you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so that's interesting. You said it made you feel safe. And I think that maybe for a lot of the men out there, we think that, hey, I've got to be the warrior, I've got to be the protector, and that to cry or to show my weakness or to show my emotion would actually make those around me feel less safe. But what I hear you saying is that it actually made you feel more safe to hear me cry. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, you were no longer wearing that mask and that image that I have of you, and do not cry because it's going to be used against you. He's crying, he feels safe with me, we are safe to cry. But I think the most important thing is that you remove that mask and you allowed me to remove mine and be my authentic self.
That's beautiful. And I remember one distinct time that I had just a bawling of tears. And I'm sharing this story because we're going to ask us to kind of collaborate in the sharing of this story, because I think that very often we think about crying only as, oh my gosh, I'm very sad. But there can be a beautiful time of release in crying with incredibly happy moments as well. And so what's coming to my mind is I called you after my last master's program class, right before I was about to graduate. I wrapped up my last class, and I remember calling you, and I don't think it was too far after I started the phone call that I started to cry. Can you share a little bit about that story?
Yeah, I remember that phone call. I think you just said probably hi, and you started bawling your eyes right on the phone, and it was very, very touching. I think I was crying with you. Most of the time when this happens, you create this bond with your partner, and I think probably 90% of the times that you have cried, I have cried with you, because you really create that like heart connection with your partner, and you kind of feel what they're feeling. And something that I have learned throughout this experience is that you really do not need to understand why your partner is crying. And you don't need to have the perfect words for your partner, or you don't need to worry about what am I supposed to do when he's crying. Maybe I should tell him to stop crying. And I think it's just to be present and just to listen. But I have actually watched you in many instances cry so far, and it has been tears of joy, of appreciation, sadness, frustration, and they all come out in a different way.
Yeah, that's beautiful, beautiful.